We want to make sure you never have regret. You know, like that bad tattoo across your chest that's spelt wrong, or somehow maybe it's up on your neck and you're thinking, I wish I wouldn't have done that 20 years later. We want to make sure you don't have any bad neck tattoos. Actually, we want to make sure that you buy a house that you love to live in.
And you don't regret it. So today, we are going to be walking you through all the types of homes that you are not looking to buy in the Tacoma area. We're Joe and Charity. We are local realtors here in the South Puget Sound area, and every week we're helping people just like you find the perfect home not to regret. So stick with us, and here we go.
And we'll give you $150 towards your next tattoo, as long as it's not spelled wrong. Okay, that's not true at all. But nonetheless, let's jump into the homes that you don't want to buy because you might regret it.
We did not save the best for last. In fact, this one, you may have never had it on your radar. Maybe some of the ones we share later you will, but this one, I bet you didn't.
Yeah, and that is the Pulp mill in Tacoma. There used to be something called the Tacoma Aroma. So years ago, when we lived in Tacoma, you would just some days go out to your car and realize this is not awesome. And there was, afterwards, it really just did. It wasn't that you could roll the windows down to make it better. You had to roll them up to make it better. And that's never a good thing, especially because years ago, I didn't have air conditioning in my car. So that was terrible. Now, the great thing is the Pulp mill actually closed down. However, there is still in some areas soil contamination that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, so obviously people live in the homes in these areas, and we're not saying never ever even consider a home here, but you're definitely going to want to know what you need to know about living in this zone. You can actually go onto What's in My Neighborhood website, enter your address in, and you see that it says that there's contamination. It's also going to give you more information on that. And it's going to give you resources as well. In fact, the Department of Health will actually come and test your soil and let you know if you have lead and arsenic in it. And in some instances, they will actually replace the soil.
So it's not one of those things that's a complete deal breaker. We just want you to be informed so that you know. Now, obviously, it is not over all of Tacoma. It is in very small pockets. And the more you know, the more informed decisions you can make.
So we want to keep you safe from toxins, but we also want to keep you safe from DIYers.
Now, Charity and I have been in literally thousands of homes over the years. And the reality is everybody wants to show you the wonderful work they've done around the house and the improvements they made. And sometimes they are wonderful improvements around the house. However, on more than one occasion, somebody's shown me their wonderful weekend project, and me, being a polite person, most days, not all, we will encourage their efforts because the effort is wonderful. And if it's something they're proud of, we're going to be proud of as well. With that said, sometimes those do-it-yourself projects are actually bringing down the value of the home and are going to be future work for the future homeowner.
Yeah, and it really depends on which kind of projects they did. For example, if somebody did a DIY tile jobs throughout the house. Joe's eyes get very big.
Stressing me out right now.
You know, when the lines, we've seen these. I saw it just a couple of weeks ago. The lines don't line up, not in a purposeful way, in a non-purposeful way.
Yes.
That's an expensive one because
that tile installing new is not going to be cheap. Sometimes it's real simple things where you could tell the person isn't amazing at painting, and that's a pretty easy fix. But when Terry's talking about tiles, sometimes it's about hanging doors. Sometimes it's about light fixtures that aren't working anymore. I was in a home just the other day. Somebody wired a three-way light switch on this, and it was not working correctly. It was not three-way. I'm not sure which way it was because we worked on trying to figure it out, and we couldn't get it to work right. So then there's going to be extra electrical expenses that are going to go into it. It really is wonderful that people make their homes their own, and sometimes people have great talent levels in that. So don't be afraid of all do-it-yourself projects. However, be aware that if it doesn't look very professional to you, start asking questions.
And we will keep an eye on it ourselves. We have flipped a lot of houses and built a house, and we know what things are DIY. And a lot of times I'm kind of surprised when I'm walking through with clients that they don't notice it. And I feel very obligated to point out, hey, you know that they didn't, to the simple things, they didn't even fill in the holes when they put the trim on. Those are things you can obviously do, but it also shows that somebody didn't finish a job. And if they didn't finish a job there, they
might not have started it well to begin with. So just be aware. We definitely like to make sure our clients know those things because that's a big rock. If those do-it-yourself projects are looking really pretty good and somebody, some lady, some gentleman had great talent or really patient and took their time and it looks great and it's not in any type of soil contaminated area, the third thing you're going to want to look at is the foundation. How are things? Because depending on how that home is built and depending on how water has flown around that home, very particular about that because we live in a rainy area, it could cause foundation issues, and foundation issues are very expensive to fix for the most part. Not always, but most of the time.
Yeah, and if you, just for future reference, when you are looking at your foundation or you're having an inspection done, when there's a small crack, that's not what we're talking about.
No, we're not.
What are we talking about?
I'm not talking about small cracks. What we're talking about is cracks that have a big V as a potential or moving towards a V or are twisted sideways as such. Those are the big ones. I like to highlight about gutters and making sure that the gutters are flowing the water away because that is really one of the biggest problems that we have in our area, improper drainage. Because when that drainage comes down and then it goes underneath the house and you have a crawl space, then you're having to have some other issues, not only potentially with foundation, but potentially with crawl space, mold, and those things that can get in there. So you really just want to make sure that that is taken care of.
If you run into a house that you think is fantastic and you're not sure, then of course it's always best to get a professional's opinion. And during your inspection contingency time, you'll have the ability to do that. So that perfect house might still be, and it might be worth it to get the bid and see if the fix is going to be cost effective for you.
So the next home you want to look out for is something that you can't necessarily repair. And that has to do with location and road noise, and more specifically, next to freeways.
Yeah, because Tacoma is a large city, you have a lot of freeways, and those freeways have a lot of traffic on them, and the more lanes you get, the more noise you get. And so the noise can travel quite a ways. But especially, we always help clients who are interested in a house that's really close to a really busy road or a freeway to think through it. They may not be bothered by it, but when they go to sell it, it will be harder to sell. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, sometimes it's worth it because it's cost effective or the previous homeowners have done work to mitigate the sound, so it actually isn't that bad once you're inside the house, or the orientation to the house creates like a quiet backyard space. There are ways around it. However, it is something that you need to be aware of. And sometimes, oddly enough, not just traffic's railroads. I was showing a house to a client and everybody loved it until the train went right in front of it while we were showing. That obviously affected that person, and it doesn't affect everyone. But those are big deals, and especially if you're new to the area and unfamiliar with it, that you'll want to know prior to making purchase of the home.
You may be moving from an area where you're really used to living by freeways and it's really not a big deal to you. Probably you're from California. I've had clients from California and the road noise and being close to the freeway is not a big thing. So it's especially important for you to know because people here in the Northwest think differently. So when you do go to sell, you're going to come up against that. You're not going to have as many people that feel like freeway noise, I'm used to it.
Now that we've covered road noise, let's talk about something that actually is pretty dangerous or can be, and that is the electrical panel and the electrical work.
Did you know that there are some specific panels that are known to be fire prone and they are still in homes? We run into them. You would think that if people have known for all of these years, over 20 years, that these are problematic, wouldn't they have switched them out? Not always.
Yeah, not necessarily, because if things are functioning well and you haven't had a problem, obviously not all of them burn down the house. There have been enough that these are something you need to be aware of. So when you do come across one of these and you find a home that you love, that doesn't mean you should run and hide and that house is not for you. It is something, though, that in the inspection time frame that you could ask for it to be replaced if you're going to continue with the purchase of the house. Having a panel replaced is not that uncommon. I would say with an older home, it usually has happened by the time you get to acquisition, but not always. So it's one of those things you want to keep on top of your mind.
So you're probably curious which panels those are, and they are Federal Pacific and Zinsco. There are actually a few others, so I recommend you just go online and learn a little bit more about them and the problems that they have created and still can create.
From potential fire hazards to some potential leaking hazards, we want to address this next one, and it has to do with galvanized piping. Years ago was a common practice, and it has a lifespan of around 50 years, plus or minus either way. You could get into a home that's been there for 70 years and it could still be doing fine. However, you need to be aware of because the expense of replacing galvanized pipe can be a little costly.
Replacement costs can be from $8,000 to $15,000. It's going to depend on the accessibility of your pipe to the person who is going to be changing them out, and it's also going to depend on how big your house is.
Yeah, for sure. So when we think about galvanized pipe, it's not a matter of lead poisoning, rather it's going to be leaks at joints, and sometimes those joints are behind the walls and it can create water damage. So then when you discover it, the cost is going to go up a little bit because you're going to have not just the replacement of the pipes, but also the repairing of the walls and other damaged areas.
This one is the most fun. So I guess we did kind of save the best for last.
We saved potentially the most comical for last.
Highly customized homes. And I think you know what I mean, because they are a magnet. If you see one online and somebody is posting, look at this crazy house, look what somebody did, everybody wants to see it. So that's why I say it's the most fun.
It is the most fun because we've seen rooms that have been decorated for couples only. I use that in parentheses because I don't know who else might be in there. However, those rooms that are uniquely designed to the perfect purple kitchen. And you're like, hey, I understand that. In our area, I've seen this on multiple occasions where they are Seahawks fans and their kitchen proves it.
Yes, green and blue, not just the kitchen, but the exterior of the house. I saw a Seahawks room just the other day.
Yeah, but Seahawks kitchen, that one got me. I was like, whew, you are committed. You're a bigger fan than I, and I respect that person. I'm not judging, but I am observing. I am observing that not everybody loves that type of fashion statement, especially if they're like a Raiders fan or
yeah, that'd be trouble.
That'd be trouble if they're moving here from California and a 49ers fan, which I'm sorry, sad.
We're digressing to football.
Really are.
Back to the home that's highly customized. We see the funniest things. I saw a really nice home that was, I don't know, 2010 or 15, not very old, great floor plan, but inside there was some vaulted ceilings and some 2-story ceilings. Inside it was completely looked like you were in a marble encasement. But when you went up to the walls, it was actually paint. So they paint treated this entire house to look like you were in like a marble, I wouldn't even call it a castle, I don't know, a mausoleum.
Something.
It took a while for that one to sell, a while.
Now, we always encourage clients when we're helping list their home to make their home most attractive to the widest swath of potential buyers. And we get that these type of home improvements that people have made, sometimes it really is worth it. They're going to live in their home for 30 years and enjoy it for 30 years and go do whatever you want to do. Just be aware when you're selling your home, people might not like it as much as you. However, when you're looking to buy, sometimes this could be a place where you get added value because a little sweat equity on some of these projects will give you a big return on it because it does turn off a lot of buyers. So you may actually get a good one.
Exactly. So we'll help you find it. So there you have it, the 7 types of homes in Tacoma and probably almost anywhere except for that number 1 that you're going to want to avoid, or you're going to want to know what you're in for before you buy it.
Not all of these should be avoided for sure, but information does help you make better decisions. And that's why we're here to partner with you in your next purchase, especially if you're moving to the Northwest.
So go ahead and just reach out on the number below or feel free to email us in the link in the description. And if you've enjoyed this video, keep watching because the next one is going to help you see the 5 most affordable areas to live in the South Puget Sound area.